So now that we've gone over the setup and layout of Enscape for Rhino, we can start going over how to set up the environment, sun, location, and time to make sure it fits the scene we're trying to create. Even though Enscape is the actual visualization software that we're using, most of the settings for the sun, location, and time are done in Rhino. So I'm going to start by changing the display mode of our box here in the display tab and go to shaded and then typing in sun into the Rhino command bar. You'll see this toolbar pop up and you can click to turn it on, and you can also manually control it by clicking this and moving the sun and the altitude yourself. But for this time, we're going to scroll down and then type in the closest city that we have right now because it only has certain cities. So right now the closest to us is Salem, Oregon. And then we can change the date to today's date, for example, which is April 19th, 2021. So as you can see, these diagrams here are for the year and the time, and we can sort of play around with those. And if you look at the Enscape window, you'll already see the sun changing. So before we move fully into Enscape, actually, we can use the Rhino toolbar to navigate to the direct front view of the box, because that's what we'll be using for the exercising class. So I'm going to turn on the camera synchronization between Enscape and Rhino. So the Enscape camera will follow whatever you do in Rhino this way. And then I believe it's the right view to directly face the box opening. So as you can see, it's a bit weird right now, but if we actually turn this toolbar off again, you can see it'll be just displaying the front view. And now you have two options. You can either go here and click Set View, Named View. You can save it. And alternatively, you can also use the View Management window in Enscape and create a view here. As you can see, the Rhino view is in here as well, and then the Enscape view is in here as well. So either method works, and they'll communicate with each other to make sure you always have your views saved. So once you have your view set up, you can still see that there's this mountain scene behind it, and the lighting isn't how we would want it. So we can open up the Enscape visual settings to continue. And here you'll see a series of tabs at the top, and the ones that deal with the environment most are sky and atmosphere. But let's start in sky. So to get rid of this mountain scene in the background, we can either choose a different scene that we would like, but for now let's just use white background. It's good to keep the view abstract for this exercise. And below the horizon settings here at the top, you can also see below. And below the horizon settings here, you can see the clouds, density, variety, cirrus amount, and also their position. Before we move on, we can close the Enscape visual settings and then either use the U key or the I key to move the sun forward and back, or we can also hold Shift and click and drag the right mouse button to move the sun position around. Now we can go back to the Enscape visual settings and back to the atmosphere tab, and here you can customize the sun brightness, the night sky brightness, which is good when you set the time to nighttime, the shadow sharpness, so how blurred they become at their edges, and then artificial light brightness, which we'll get to, and then the ambient brightness here can be useful for compensating when you don't have time to figure out specific lighting conditions or lighting a scene super well. So it can either increase or decrease contrast between light and dark, but it sort of evenly lights the scene without any specific parameters. The other menus you can also use are the fog and the wind. The wind won't be that impactful in a still image, but the fog can add some blurring and depth as well.